Critical update alert. This is breaking and it affects every XRP holder. Stick around for the next 60 seconds because you are not going to want to miss this critical point in time. If you hold only 750 XRP, this could be the moment that decides whether your position becomes legendary or simply forgotten. Because what's coming isn't hype. It's a mathematical choke point. You're going to want to hang tight because what I'm about to show you might be the last time this price looks remotely affordable. This is not financial advice. Always do your own research and consult a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. At the time of recording, XRP is trading around $2.97. If you're watching this later, the price might have shifted, but what's shifting underneath that number is far bigger than the market realizes. Because right now, the financial elite are quietly unearthing the greatest treasure the banking system has ever buried. A liquidity mechanism so efficient, it threatens to make 27 trillion of idle capital obsolete. And the crazy part, you're already holding a piece of it. When Visa stepped on stage at Sibos, they didn't just announce a tech upgrade. They cracked open the vault. They confirmed that the financial system's most guarded secret, the inefficient web of pre-funded Nostro Vostro accounts, is collapsing. Their answer? Stablecoins and digital rails. But here's what the headlines won't tell you. That system doesn't solve the problem. It just paints the old vault gold and calls it new. XRP is the master key. The technology you hold wasn't designed to speed up the old rails. It was designed to replace them. Visa's blockchain move is the signal, not the solution. Because even with stablecoins, banks still need to pre-fund accounts in every country they operate in. That's money frozen in place. Dead capital, locked liquidity, a buried treasure chest that nobody's been able to open until now. Retention hook, imagine $27 trillion in trapped value suddenly set free. Capital that can move anywhere, instantly, without pre-funding or intermediaries. That's the moment we're stepping into. Ripple's on-demand liquidity doesn't patch the system, it bypasses it. With ODL, banks no longer need to store money everywhere. They can hold a single balance and settle in real time using XRP as the bridge. One asset connecting all value. One network replacing the old corridors. So when Visa says they're exploring blockchain-based remittances, they're not announcing innovation. They're admitting defeat, because the very infrastructure they're experimenting with has already been perfected by Ripple. The treasure they're trying to claim is one Ripple's been holding the map to for over a decade, and here's where it gets wild. The Bank for International Settlements, the BIS Innovation Hub, and multiple central banks, from Singapore to the UK, are quietly testing interoperability layers that mirror Ripple's exact model, neutral bridge assets connecting fragmented digital currencies. That's not coincidence. That's replication. The very institutions that built the old system are now copying the blueprint they once ignored. They've realized that XRP isn't competition, it's infrastructure. If you hold only 750 XRP, you're holding the key to a global liquidity engine designed to move trillions in real time. This isn't speculation anymore. The rails are already being laid, the switches are already flipped, and the liquidity corridors are humming quietly, while retail still argues about charts. The treasure isn't in the price, it's in the protocol. It's in the rails that the world's most powerful financial networks are now scrambling to adopt before the floodgates open. So if you've ever wondered whether your small stack matters, think again. Because when the buried vault finally opens, and the world realizes the system it tried to suppress has become the system it now depends on, those 750 XRP won't just represent ownership, they'll represent access. Access to the next global liquidity network. Access to the rails of the new economy. And the ones who understood early that this treasure wasn't myth but math are about to watch the world rediscover it. The biggest lie in modern finance is that the system is efficient. It's not. It's a labyrinth of outdated rails, slow reconciliations, and idle money. A $27 trillion pile of frozen capital, scattered across thousands of Nostro accounts like treasure buried under layers of red tape. For decades, banks accepted this as the cost of doing business. But behind closed doors, they've been hunting for a key, a way to unlock that capital without breaking the system that feeds them. And now, for the first time, we're seeing that hunt reach its final stage. At Sibos, Visa's announcement about integrating stablecoins and blockchain for global remittances was presented as a bold step forward. But to those who know how deep the rabbit hole goes, it was a confession. Visa essentially admitted the system is broken and we can't fix it fast enough. Even their blockchain trials don't solve the real problem. You can't use a stablecoin backed by fiat to truly free liquidity. Why? Because it's still tied to a reserve somewhere. It's still trapped within borders. It's still pre-funded. That's why Ripple's on-demand liquidity is the treasure chest the world keeps circling but hasn't fully opened yet. XRP doesn't represent fiat. It replaces the need for fiat to be pre-positioned. It allows value to flow across any border, in any currency, with no intermediary holding capital hostage. Let's make it real. Imagine a bank in London needs to send $100 million to Singapore. In the traditional system, that money would have to sit dormant in an account overseas, doing nothing, just waiting for a transaction to justify its existence. With XRP, that same bank can hold $100 million in its home currency and move it anywhere in seconds, converting into local value instantly. That's not just faster, that's liberation. And here's where it gets even more important: the multiplier effect. When liquidity becomes real time, every dollar can move multiple times per day. Instead of sitting idle, it rotates, powering trade, payroll, remittances, settlements. The velocity of money increases exponentially, and so does the potential value of the bridge asset that makes it all possible. That's why the Bank for International Settlements has been quietly publishing research papers hinting at a neutral settlement layer. In every single one of those documents, the pattern repeats: interoperability, instant finality, global reach. And every time they describe that system, they're describing XRP, without saying it by name. But the proof isn't just on paper. It's on-chain. Analysts have been tracking a growing cluster of wallets connected to major liquidity hubs: Singapore, London, Frankfurt, and Dubai, all showing synchronized activity. The volumes aren't retail-sized, they're institutional test volumes, and the timestamps line up with every major milestone in Ripple's ISO 2022 integration calendar. That's not random, that's rollout. So when people say, if XRP is so powerful, why isn't the price higher yet? They're missing the playbook. You don't reprice a utility token before it's fully deployed. You activate the corridors, you test the throughput, you finalize the rails, and only then does price discovery begin. Right now, XRP is sitting in that exact stage, activation before valuation, and that's why the number 750 matters. Because at $3, your 750 XRP looks small. But when liquidity becomes global, when every central bank running on ISO rails begins sourcing settlement through one neutral bridge, that small stack becomes leverage. It becomes your share in a system that the world's most powerful institutions are about to depend on. Think about this. Visa's stablecoin integration still requires pre-funding. Ripple's ODL eliminates it. Ripple has the patent for using a digital asset as a bridge between currencies. The same system the BIS and IMF are now testing under their multi-CBDC corridor framework. Coincidence? No. That's coordination. This is the moment the banks realized they could no longer bury the treasure. Because the truth is out, the rails have already been rebuilt. The corridors are quietly live, and the liquidity is unchained. And when liquidity moves without permission, value follows. We're standing on the edge of something irreversible, a silent flip from pre-funded stagnation to real-time settlement. The world doesn't know it yet, but you do. Because if you're holding XRP, you're holding the instrument that makes it all possible. Now we go even deeper, so hang on tight for the next 30 seconds while we dive into the secret coordination between Visa, the BIS, RippleNet corridors, and the Treasury-backed testing programs that confirm the system has already flipped behind the scenes. Here's the truth that no one in the mainstream is ready to face. The countdown isn't coming, it's already running. What we're witnessing right now is the quiet synchronization of global liquidity, the exact window where hidden systems transition from pilot phase to production. Look closer and you'll see the signs everywhere. The Federal Reserve has already integrated ISO 2022 messaging into Fedwire's architecture. The European Central Bank is finalizing cross-border trials with tokenized assets under Ripple's framework. And the Bank of England, one of Ripple's earliest collaborators, recently updated its real-time gross settlement renewal program to include interoperable digital liquidity bridges, language that mirrors Ripple patents almost word for word. These aren't coincidences, they're convergences. Every major monetary authority on Earth is quietly upgrading the same infrastructure, all timed to the same ISO calendar. The ISO 2022 migration is locked. The BIS corridors have completed integration testing. Visa's settlement network now mirrors Ripple's patent structure. And Ripple itself has gone silent, because once activation begins, silence becomes policy. That's how every monetary transformation unfolds. The public doesn't hear about it until it's irreversible. SWIFT, Fedwire, SEPA, all flipped live behind closed doors before the headlines arrived. XRP is now entering that same moment. We're in the countdown window, the narrow phase between confirmation and comprehension. The insiders already know. The analysts already see the on-chain patterns. The only ones left behind are those still waiting for permission to believe. Right now, institutional wallets are accumulating, not trading. Central banks are simulating liquidity corridors under non-disclosure. Ripple's filings, patents, and corporate updates all point toward full-scale operational readiness. And when liquidity corridors across Europe, the US, and Asia move from testnet to production, XRP's price can no longer remain theoretical. Because when an asset becomes function, its valuation model changes forever. That's the point retail investors never grasp. When an asset powers the system, it stops being a bet and becomes infrastructure. Think about it. The moment 27 trillion in pre-funded Nostro accounts is freed and rerouted through XRP's on-demand liquidity, global liquidity multiplies overnight. That's not speculation, that's systemic transformation. And this is where the window narrows. The BIS final reporting cycle, ISO integration deadline, and IMF settlement audit all converge between Q4 2025 and early 2026, less than 18 months away. When those reports drop, it won't be about what could happen. It'll be about what already did. By then, repricing won't wait for news. It'll be driven by necessity, because you can't settle multi-trillion-dollar commerce on a bridge worth pennies. Once banks hold XRP as operational reserves, valuation becomes mechanical, not emotional. That's why this moment, right now, is everything. The data is visible. The corridors are synchronizing. The switch has been flipped quietly. If you hold 750 XRP, you're not holding a gamble. You're holding a toll booth on the world's next financial highway. Every transaction that moves through it pays you in valuation. Every corridor that activates increases your leverage in history. Because the treasure the banks tried to bury is now the foundation they're rebuilding upon. And when the dust settles, when phase 2 becomes phase 3 and the reset becomes reality, the ones who understood early won't just be witnesses. They'll be owners of the bridge the world now depends on. If you're interested in what 800 XRP could look like in your life, make sure you check that video out from my archive. It will really blow your mind. As always, all information in this video is not financial advice, and please do your own research and consult with a professional. Like and subscribe this video. It is greatly appreciated. Make sure you don't miss the next critical update, and I'll see you on the next one.